Hey, welcome back to our time-sticking YouTube channel. My name's Jake, and today I'm going to be breaking down some basic watch anatomy with my friend, Pulsar. So, stick with us through our intro, and we're going to have a look at him with you. Now, we here at Time Sticking do sometimes take for granted how much jargon we've really learned while dealing with watches. Drawing from that note, we've decided to arm anyone who might not be familiar with industry lingo. So if you desire to sound a little more educated the next time you're in less time-inclined company, or just learning how to speak watch, or simply like learning something new about timepieces, then keep your eyes peeled through the video. For veterans, this may act well as a refresher, or a way to reflect on the basic language surrounding watches. Retaining the majority of the features of a watch, we're going to begin with the watch case. The case is home to all of the parts of a watch. It is home base. Within are the guts that make a watch a watch. Ahead will cover the parts of the case, including any pieces attached to it, as well as what's inside. We will save anything concerning the watch band, however, for after this section. To begin the section on the case, we're going to start with the lugs, which are featured on the edges of the case, and they hold the band in place. They do come in varying styles, but typically look like 4 prongs or arms extending from the main body of the case, unlike Pulsar today. Screws, spring bars, flange pins, and other materials are attached to the lug to hold a band, strap, or bracelet onto the watch. Up next, we have the watch bezel, which is this ring that holds the crystal in place. If crystal sounds strange, that's coming up next. Bezels can be made out of various materials, but are typically made of metal. Some are stationary, functioning simply as a way to hold the crystal in place, but there are unidirectional and bidirectional rotating bezels. Rotating bezels are usually used for secondary functions like tachymeters. We do have supplementary information on tachymeters available here on our channel. Moving right along, we're onto the watch crystal. Now, watch crystals are any piece, although they're typically made out of quartz crystal, that cover the dial. Crystals can be cut to varying shapes, but tend to be round and held in place, fully or partially, by a bezel. Moving on from the crystal, inside of the watch itself, if you had X-ray vision, there's actually a thing called the movement. The movement is the guts of the watch. The case houses a watch movement, thus making it a complete watch. Movements have their complexities, but they can be broken down into 2 general categories, mechanical or quartz. Mechanical movements run on gear trains and the power of a wound spring mechanism. Quartz movements use batteries or electronic power sources to vibrate a tiny quartz crystal to create energy and tick. Instead of gears, quartz use a circuit board. The watch case is universal to housing the movement, otherwise watches would be far less portable. Now, to flip my Pulsar over, we actually have what's called the watch case back. The case back is going to cover the movement and acts as another defense, like the crystal. Essentially, case backs are the main entrance to a watch. They are a detachable piece, threaded or popped in place, that allows for access to the watch's movement. The case back is removed for battery changes and for simple mechanical adjustments on a watch. It can be tricky to get them off or get them back on, so be sure to consult a watchmaker concerning basic maintenance. Case backs often feature the watch's model number, which is handy concerning anything outside of general upkeep on a watch. Up next, we have the stem and crown. Now you can only see the crown part on my Pulsar right now, but the stem itself is also inside, doing the majority of the work. As it goes, the stem and crown are a package deal. Stems are married to the movement and are used to wind a mechanical mechanism and or set the hands. The crown attaches to the end of the stem for engaging the stem's functions. Watch crowns appear on the outside of the case, as I demonstrated, but they are an extension of the stem. Without the stem and crown, watches are difficult or impossible to set or wind. What's a king or queen without a crown anyway? Now moving on to another basic feature of a wristwatch, we have the dial. The dial is the display for time. Dials are fixed to the movement and are marked with notches, numbers, and all the like to determine not only time, but any other readouts. Subdials are often applied to watches with secondary date and stopwatch functions, known as chronographs. Dials are protected by the watch crystal. The time they display is commonly set and manipulated via the stem and crown. As you can see, everything's slowly starting to come together on old Pulsar here. Now the biggest thing on the display, other than just the name of the dial itself, are the hands, which help with the readout of the display. Watch hands, as I mentioned, appear on the dial, and they're also connected to the movement. They rotate around the dial in time with the tick of the movement. If the dial has no markings, there are likely still hands attached to mark the time. The three main hands are the second, minute, and the hour hand. However, depending on other movement functions, there can be more on the dial or subdials. As well, some watches will have only one or two hands. This is a stylistic choice by the watchmaker. Now that we've essentially covered everything that makes the watch a watch, one last thing we wanted to go over with old Pulsar here is the band itself and the types of bands that can go with wristwatches. With all of our bases of the case covered, the lugs, the crystal, the movement, and all of the movement's primary attachments, this is a much simpler category. Bands themselves attach to a watch case at the lug. Bands aren't necessary in defining a watch, but since most modern watches are wrist watches, this category has been included in the basics. The two types we'll be covering here are metal bracelet bands, like the one here on my Pulsar, and non-metal straps. When we say metal bands, we're not talking about music, to be clear. Metal bands are just as they sound. Metals in bracelet form attached at the lug to keep things on one's wrist. An important term when talking metal bands are the links. Now the links are going to be the metal segments here on the band that are held together typically by a pin. And the band itself is going to hold together with a band clasp. Now this clasp is a little bit different. It's a sliding adjust, but most of them are going to be a fold over clasp. An important term when talking metal bands are the links. Links are the metal segments that make a metal band a metal band. They're held together typically by pins. What ties all the links together at the center of the band is the band's clasp. Now a watch band can literally clasp together in order to hold itself on your wrist. Since metal is hard to slip off or on, this portion of a metal band makes putting a band on or taking one off easier. Now there's another form of metal band that's fairly common called an expansion band. Some people refer to them as stretchy bands, where the metal links are held together by staples instead of regular pins and stretch out for ease of putting on and off again. All non-metal bands are often referred to as straps, which is what we're going to cover next. They're typically made from cow leather, but can alternatively be made from a variety of materials. Their construction is a bit simpler than metal bands typically, but they can be decorated in unique ways. Because of their two-piece design, with one half of the strap on the top lug and the other half on the bottom lug, they require a buckle to be held together. A strap-style band's buckle is going to be featured at the top part of the band, which is connected to the top lug of the watch case. The buckle is usually made of metal or plastic. It gives the bottom portion of the strap something to hold onto. The bottom portion will have holes or notches for a small bit to go through. The small bit attached to the buckle then holds the strap in place, after the bottom portion is slipped through. Well, that pretty much covers the basics. So, thanks for sitting down with me and my Pulsar today and going over some basic watch terms. If you have any questions or comments about this anatomy, leave them in the comments section for us. Hello, and thanks for watching our YouTube video today. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, and you can find similar videos right here. For more new and interesting content from Time Sticking on our channel, please subscribe at the link here. And for more information about wristwatch repair and watch maintenance generally, you can find us at timesticking.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.